Oh,
That's fine.
did it
Can you
work?
hear us now?
Hey,
Can you
everybody.
hear us?
Uh,
Whew, save us
I
from
had
our
the
own sign language.
sure. I had the best intro. I just said that I'm Dan Selcke. He's Daniel Roman. We're here to talk about TV, movies, pop culture. And I welcomed all of you. Hello, Martha, Julie, Nicole, Christian. Everything's back. Everything's cool. Daniel, you were out last week. How
It
was
was.
your week? How was your let's banter. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was a holiday. It was wonderful. Yeah, I was sad to miss last week, but just the travel plans didn't line up because apparently Wednesday is the day that comes before Thanksgiving, which is inconsiderate of
Little
Wednesday.
known fact.
But no,
Yeah.
it was wonderful. Dan, how was your holiday? And all of you out
Bitchin'. We
there,
had a
how was
great
your week?
holiday.
Ooh,
Yeah. I don't know.
okay.
Lots of family, lots of good cheer. I'm still working through the leftovers. That's always one of the best parts. I ate the rest of the stuffing today. I had turkey sandwiches yesterday and Monday, and
Ooh,
there's still quite a bit of turkey left. And mostly it's the sweets, honestly, that are freaking killing me because I can't eat those for lunch. But
yeah.
I'm just kind of, whenever I pass the fridge, I'm just like, what's one more? Another lemon cake. We made lemon cakes, like
Yeah. Oh,
straight up salsa
nice.
lemon cakes, and they're really
From the
good.
book? From the book?
From the book, yes, yes.
From
Actually, it was from the book.
the cookbook? Nice. They're
Yes.
good.
They have you made them?
I have. Yes, I have the cookbook. I
Aren't they
have made
good?
the lemon cakes. They are delicious.
Yeah, I was pleased with how genuinely tasty those were. 'Cause I'm not really a cake guy. I'm mostly a ice cream. I'm more of an ice cream gentleman. But if you put some like
Okay,
lemon in
that's
it,
fair.
I'll gobble the cakes down all day. And if anybody out
Yeah.
there had your own Thanksgiving stories, feel free to share. Or if you're not in the US and don't know what Thanksgiving is, what'd you do over the weekend? But Daniel, time to get serious for a
Yes.
second. Now that we've
Okay.
dispensed with the
I have been
preambulatory
this whole
banter,
time.
we have to talk about the industry, what's happening in TV, in movies, in fantasy,
Did
in
we?
sci-fi. I do feel refreshed, by the way,
Okay.
after that long weekend. I was kind of
Good.
frantic last
Me
Wednesday,
too.
but now I feel nice.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to start,
Good.
Daniel, with a TV show. It's coming up just around the corner that I have been privileged to watch advanced episodes of because you and I
Okay.
have access to these kind of things that are very important. Are you familiar, Daniel, with the television show His Dark Materials?
I am. I think it's based on a book, and there are some weird elephants.
I should have brought the
No,
book with me.
I do actually know what's up. You should have. But yeah, no, of course. And it comes back what next
The 5th,
Tuesday?
Monday,
Next
weirdly.
month. It premieres on
So
a Monday? All right.
I know. I think only on HBO Max too. It's kind of odd. So this show was a pretty big show when HBO Max started it. A kind of like a mini Westworld effect here. Based on Philip Pullman's sci-fi fantasy books, which are pretty beloved, kind
Mhm.
of like YA. I'm gonna call them YA literature for adults. I'm gonna go ahead and say that's what they are. Um,
Nice. I've heard people
they
refer to
put
them as the Lord of the Rings for atheists. So there's that too.
they do kill God this season. That should be a good time. Um, the books are pretty beloved, hard to kind of break down. The show has been going for 2 seasons. This next season is the third and final one that adapts the final book in the trilogy, Amber
Mhm.
Spyglass. And I'm looking forward to it because I like the books and I wanted to really love this show. And I ended up just sort of
Yeah.
enjoying it. Like just kind of about it like this is a solid 6, 7, which is nice. I wanted
Yeah.
more, but I'm glad I got to stick it out. I'm glad an adaptation of this book series exists because it is a pretty important book series so far as
Yeah.
the pantheon of fantasy sci-fi stuff goes, and pretty recent too. Um, as Nicole says, I was impressed for that.
Relatively.
Season 1 was great, season 2 was just okay and got weird. It does get a little weird, and I will say season 3 gets weirder still. We are talking
Yes.
interdimensional wheel riding elephant antelope creatures. We are talking angels in torture chambers, which I think they added was pretty cool. We are talking a vision of hell, heaven, purgatory that is filled not with pits of fire or singing choirs of angels, but shrieking harpies who kind of henpeck you for all eternity. We are talking a fight with God.
Yeah.
And again, all this sounds really cool. And I've the first two seasons, I always marveled at how they took this really interesting material and sort of just kind of made it a little flat. Like they hit most of the beats. Like it's about this girl, Lyra, played by Daphne Keane, who's pretty talented, who is kind of this precocious child who ends up getting mixed up in this conspiracy to kill God. I'll summarize it like that. Um, it just never really popped. And now that I've watched some of this new first season, and I will say, it's kind of keeping on chucking with this. I'm not going to
Yeah.
spoil things, but it's keeping on chucking with the same vibe. I watched the first two episodes, which are both dropping on Monday. They're releasing these two at a time, by the way. It kind of feels like they want to burn it off, if you're
All
asking me.
season?
Yeah, the whole season's going to be two this Monday,
Oh,
two the next Monday, two Monday after
that's
that,
so
and then the
weird.
final two in a month. It feels like they're, and
Why?
I believe it's just on HBO Max because I don't think the show has been a giant super hit. I don't think the show has caught on in the way that they wanted a post Game of Thrones HBO fantasy show to catch on. It's been good. It's been good. It's a
Yeah.
solid show. The performances are good. They have a special effects budget, and one of the things that I've enjoyed the most about the new episodes in season 3, I do like the visual imagination. I like that the angels get more involved, and they're kind of these otherworldly, misshapen, made of refracted light beings. They're pretty cool. There's this bit where
Okay.
James McAvoy, who's again a pretty big actor, who's in this show as Lord Asriel, captures one and he kind of tortures it. And it's like, that's pretty sweet. And he like puts it in like this chamber thing. I like the visuals on that. The polar bear is great. Eric
Bernison.
Bernison, I can't really pronounce it, comes
Yeah.
back and he wrecks guys.
Okay.
That's great. Love that. The subtle knife cuts through worlds. It's also interesting. And I'm not entirely sure what the show's missing, but it's always been missing something for me. Some kind of extra punch, some kind of extra layer that they just don't quite have.
I think it's the whimsy.
Impression?
I'm just gonna put this. Kind of. So I have read all of his Dark Materials books.
Mhm.
It was one, quite a few years ago. And the description you give of the show is as something that is telling a good story, telling it well, but maybe not quite popping. That was kind of how I felt about the books, to be honest. And I know that a lot of people love them, so don't come after me for this if you happen to love these books. But that was my feeling about the books. So I'm not surprised to see the show kind of getting that reaction, but I almost feel like the thing the show is maybe missing is almost a little bit of self-awareness of how outrageous all these things are, because the show is trying to like present this stuff in a very like in the darker HBO sort of way, even though this is like it's HBO, but it's like it's half HBO. I'm pretty sure they're co-producing this with the BBC. So it is not your typical HBO show, his Dark Materials. I think that's why it airs Mondays here. I believe it airs Sundays in the UK.
Probably.
So yeah, I like it. I've enjoyed it the whole time. I've kind of just been grateful that it's gotten a show, to be honest.
I am
because
too. Yes, I'm glad
we had
that
one
it got
false
adapted.
start. Yeah, that movie with Daniel Craig and Nicole Kidman, where they basically pulled the punches because killing God or trying to kill God didn't go over well with conservative audiences in the United States. So they backpedaled a lot and it didn't help them. So it's cool to see his Dark Materials get an adaptation that, even if it's not like really singing, like leaping off the screen, it's solid. Like it's telling the story.
It is solid.
It's not something you could look at and be like, they totally botched it. They
Mhm.
did not, or this or that. Like, they're telling the story. It's just for some reason it's not becoming the zeitgeist they're maybe hoping it would.
I agree with
It's
Nicole.
weird that they're
And
cramming
yeah,
it into 2 episodes a week. I didn't know that. That's so strange.
th- they're trying to burn it off. That's got to be what's happening.
Yeah.
Um, I agree with Nicole that I was confused by who the target audience is supposed to be because the themes are so adult, mature, and complex, while the main characters are mostly children with animals. Which, yeah, good
Yes.
call. And
That's the
I get
series, though.
that's definitely with
That's
their
I
demons.
read it as a kid. Yeah, I read it as a kid, and I got to the end and was like, I don't understand any of what just happened, because that's
Honestly,
exactly the thing of that series.
I agree with
Yes.
you that I'm kind of surprised that the books became such big as they were. I read them, I like them, but you're right. It is this weird blend of like whimsical and kind of fable like with sort of like this dissertation on theology. Um and
Yes.
I liked it, but I didn't love it. And this show, I like, I don't love. I think they could, I think they could like kind of punch things up and stream things a little more. But I will say the third book has the most entertaining stuff. Like I'm rereading it now, and I will say now that I'm like over halfway in, it is picking up, and I am finding like an urge to keep reading after I finish a chapter, not just do one a night, but like keep going, like what happens next. Like the best
That's good.
material
It's
is
always a
here.
good sign.
So
Yeah.
hopefully the best material will be in the third season too. And I like the actors. I like the special effects. I guess
Yeah.
it looks the effects are cool, but like the show itself looks kind of plain. Like just like kind of just bare bones. All the colors are what they're supposed to be, and they're dressed and the angles are kind of like documentary style, which always felt a little odd to me. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say that I love it, but I've watched the first couple episodes and it's not bad. And in some cases
Yeah.
got pretty decent. Toward the end of the second episode, I was into it when they have like this kind of confrontation thing and Ruth Wilson is smacking guys in the head with rocks and there are big zeppelins coming
Okay.
and the intention craft and hopping worlds and the bear. You gotta love the bear ripping people apart. That's fun. That's just a good time.
Bear's the best.
I
Yeah.
have
That I feel
no
like
compunction about the bear. The bear's great.
that's almost one of the problems. I feel like they really in with the bear, and then it's like, but the show's not really about that bear. He just will show up from time to time. Um,
And be a badass when he does. Richard says
yeah,
something
I
good too,
agree.
that there has been no advertisement for
Yeah,
this show. It feels like it's true. I haven't really found it. I found it by accident. I'm excited for the next season. And Richard, I hope you enjoy it because the next season is not bad. And it's the final season. But yeah, you're right. There's no advertisements and it's two at a time on Mondays. Just
I
whoop,
don't.
whoop, whoop. We're going to be done with it.
I feel like we are in the phase of studios getting caught with their pants not even
Yeah.
down around their ankles, but just like in another room. They forgot where their pants are because like the market, like this is not the first thing like this. I had this conversation with someone about
Westworld?
Strange World. No, not even
Oh, right.
Westworld. Strange World, the new Disney movie that is like bombing, it's tanking for Disney.
Yeah.
I hadn't even heard of it until a week and a half ago, and it's our
Oh, me too.
job to look out for movie news. So there are. It's interesting to see that comment from Richard because, like we've seen that with Westworld, we've seen that with his Dark Materials has gotten basically very little advertising.
El Nada.
There have been a lot of shows this year. I mean, Blood Origin didn't have a release date until 2 months ago. The Witcher spinoff that we had all been like, is that even still happening? So yeah, there have been a lot of very weird marketing things, and I don't know how much of it is like studios going through, mergers or overhauls because obviously Warner Media
Sure.
is on fire right now. But yeah, it's odd. I feel bad for all the people who put so
Yeah, I do
much
too.
into things like his Dark Material season 3.
It feels
They've
weird
been working on it for
because
years.
like the Netflix model, like they've had success with just like, here's a thing called Squid Game no one ever heard about before
Sure.
or since, and it just blows up to be an extremely thing. Stranger Things that happened with. Dark didn't
Yeah.
have any help, it just became huge. Um, yeah, the perhaps the age of the old school campaign is dropping off, and then you have like the Rings
Well,
of Power, which they wouldn't stop advertising, um,
yes.
which
If you
was
have a
widely
built-in,
watched.
yeah, I feel like a lot of it is the built-in, the incestuousness of Netflix's advertising model, really, because they are basically just putting things out with the hope that people on Netflix who need something new to watch will see
Yeah,
the next thing they put out. And
what a
that
great
that
business.
works for them, but that's not going to work for, HBO Max the same. Like you said about
Yeah.
Rings of Power, they were hoping to get people in the door with Rings of
Mm.
Power. That's why they advertised it so much. And for Netflix, everybody's already in the door. They just, now they're trying to
Yeah.
figure out what part of the room they can hang out in.
You know they're
Um,
serious when like I ordered some like shoelaces from Amazon. They came in like a Rings of Power package, and I'm like, oh,
yes,
you guys really want this, don't you? Um,
yes.
oh, as Jay says, I think
Okay,
that 1899 to that list. I want to watch that really bad. I keep trying to get around to it. I think I might try it tonight or at least this weekend because it looks really cool.
cool.
Um, Daniel,
I tried
speaking of
Dark
things,
over the past week. I bounced off it. I need to give it another
oh,
shot.
okay.
I watched the dub version because that's
Ooh,
just what Netflix auto played me, and just for some reason I was not into it.
Daniel, I
But
thought you
I've
were a
heard a lot of good
sophisticated,
things.
worldly, world cinema enjoyer, and you watched the
Not
dub
that
version.
sophisticated. I didn't mean to. I didn't even know it was dubbed until a few minutes in. I was
Gotcha.
like, something is not right here. Uh, but yeah, a lot of people are loving 1899, so
Yeah, I'm
that
gonna watch it.
is
Looks cool.
pretty legit.
Ooh, hate stuff. All right. Speaking of new shows, old shows, green shows, blue shows,
Okay.
December is the final month of the year. I'm looking forward to this month because we're
It
gonna
is.
have some fun like look backs at the year. I'm looking forward to doing with you. We're gonna do like a show where we just kind of take maybe the 15 biggest shows and rank them of how good they were this season. And yes, that is the scruffy
Be
dog
fun.
behind me in the corner making a guest appearance. Good for you, scruffy dog.
So good.
But we have one more month to go. I thought we would just kind of run down some of the big shows coming up.
Her ancestors, one of them was a slave and one of them was a really awful plantation owner. And she kind of has this task of keeping her lineage alive, even though what she's seeing is really awful. And she doesn't want to support her father, basically. So I think it's important. I think that Hulu is doing a show of
Mhm.
Kindred because it's a meatier, more important book than just like here's the next flashy fantasy thing.
Sure.
Kindred is a book with some serious legs that plays with some seriously deep and heavy ideas. Um, it's another one where I'm a little curious what's going on. Okay, Julie. Well, I don't know where we cut out, but yeah. So
Basically, your Kindred talk. Daniel wants to
yeah,
watch Kindred on Hulu December
I
13th.
want to watch Kindred. It is, yeah, it's based on a book by Octavia Butler. I'll give the very quick rundown in case you missed it. But a young Black woman in the 70s, she is unintentionally transported back in time to the era of slavery in the United States. Finds out her ancestor was a slave owner, and that is where her ancestral line in the U.S. came from. And she kind of has to keep her ancestral line alive, even though her
Ooh.
however many generations removed grandfather is awful and abusive to slaves, which her grandmother is a slave. And it's great, 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 however many greats grandmother. But
Sure.
yeah, so what I was saying is that it's cool to see a show like this get a high budget streaming series
Right.
because
Absolutely.
it is a more important book than the average, like here's a thing with dragons in it. Like, not to knock dragon things, I love them as
Hey,
much as the next person, but Octavia Butler is a legendary sci-fi author. It's great to see her works get adapted like this.
totally.
It's
That
another
sounds.
slightly weird marketing thing though, where Hulu is releasing the entire 8 episode series on
Oh, they
December
are?
13th. So I don't know. if they're trying to do the binge model, or it's another thing like we were just talking about with his Dark Materials, where they're cutting losses. Like I hope it's not that. But the entire series comes out on December 15th. And yes, Martha, very much like Outlander, minus the romance,
Ooh.
because Outlander is all about the romance.
Kindred sounds really cool to me. I'll check it out, and perhaps that'll finally get me into Outlander. There's just so much there. Um, how about, and by the way, Daniel, I didn't plan this, but like literally all the things on this list are targeted towards you, so you can do a lot of
Well,
talking
what
here.
are you watching? What are you watching, Dan?
We haven't gotten to what are we watching yet. This is December preview.
Oh,
For instance, uh, speaking of something that, unlike Kindred, is going to be marketed hugely and already has been, I think it's safe to say that you're
yes.
looking forward to um, Avatar: The Way of Water, the sequel to the
Yes.
most profitable movie in the history of film, a
Yep.
movie that asks, what if there was a sequel to Dances with Wolves, but everyone is blue and it's on a alien planet, and James Cameron's is making it. So this
Yep.
time it's going to be a lot more water as opposed to last time, it was more about alien birds, sounds more about alien fish. And also there is a
Yeah.
focus on the family. Daniel, are you sold on this? Does this feel like the event that the sequel to the highest film of all time should feel like to you?
Yeah. Kind of. Yes is the short
Nice.
answer. I'm confident it's going to be, but I feel like that's not really going to hit us until it's out, because
Sure.
I feel like I've seen so many people who are saying, like Christian saying, I haven't watched the first one, or they didn't see the first one in theaters. They kind of missed that movement of why Avatar, when it first came out, was so immensely influential and such a huge
It
deal, and
was
why it
big. It
became
was
the
big.
biggest, highest grossing film of all time. So I think there was a poll a while ago that I think it's Generation Z, the most
Sure.
anticipated movie for Gen Z of this holiday season is Avatar. And I
Really?
saw a lot of older film critics being like, why is that? That doesn't make sense. But it's kind of like, if you haven't
Because they
seen an
spent a
Avatar
marketing
movie
budget
in
on
theaters,
TikTok, maybe?
I, you can't undersell the spectacle of seeing Avatar in a theater.
Mhm.
Like, it is, you hear filmmakers talk about movies being made to be seen on the big screen all the time, but this is an instance where
Dude.
that is like, it's just true. It's
Oh no, not
not to
this
say
again.
you won't have it's just a different experience. It is what, yeah. So I'm very excited for it. I think it's going to be awesome. Will it be as good as the first one? It's hard to say. I mean, the dude spent 13 years making this movie, so I imagine it's going to be good. And they've held back a lot of the plot details in the marketing, which I like, which makes me think it will be better than we fear it may end up being. Because often I find when studios put the plot up front in the marketing, sometimes that
Hmm.
means they're not saving anything for the actual movie. And I get the feeling they're saving everything for the actual movie in this case. So
Gotcha.
I hope it's good. Are
Yeah.
you going to go see it?
I'll go see it. I might not see it opening weekend. Studio tentpole filming of the grandest kind. James Cameron,
Yeah.
master of the craft. Like $300 million spent on the blue CGI. Yeah, I'll see it.
Yeah.
I'm curious about the movie, and I'm curious about the discourse around the movie. So I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Let me
Although
ask
again,
you a
yeah.
question. Let me ask you a
I'll go
question.
ahead.
So if I lost it. I lost the question. Could have been anything at
Damn.
this point. You gotta hate when that happens. It's gonna
I
come back to
know.
me as soon
Oh,
as we move on.
arbitrary brains. Yeah, Avatar, man. Okay. Oh yeah, and as Jay says, they also said it's like a two-part. It's continued to Avatar 3. They are making more, which you once told me you didn't think they were, and you are wrong. Like they definitely are
I'm so
planning
wrong.
for more sequels. Like I think as many as
Yeah.
like
So
maybe not like maybe they won't
but
make like every single one if this movie tanks, but I think like at least one is more or less guaranteed, like one more, because they've like already shot a
Yes.
bunch. That's not guarantee anything, but
Yeah.
so
So
yeah, they're
here's the
going
deal with
cinematic
that.
universe here. Okay.
Yeah, I was skeptical, not that they would make more, but just because I have been waiting for Avatar 2 for all 13 years that it has been talked about, or however many years. I saw the first one in theaters and loved it and have been waiting.
Mhm.
So I have that healthy dose of skepticism of I'll get excited when you tell me the movie's coming out. But
Okay.
I have read interviews with Cameron where he basically said they have
Not gonna
filmed
lie.
Avatar 3. So Avatar 3 is
Yeah.
filmed, and Avatar 4 they filmed the first act of. So apparently they have a lot in the hopper already for the next
Yeah. They
Avatars.
want franchise because you know what happened in between the first Avatar and now is the MCU. That's what happened. That's why I think
Yeah,
they want this big, giant, like not instant franchise, but I mean huge blue franchise they want to move on out. And
yeah.
hopefully it'll
Well,
be wonderful. And we'll see in a very, very shortly. And
they've got
finally,
the Disney
okay.
mentality behind it now.
No.
So one thing, what I did want to ask you, because I'm curious about your opinion on this.
Oh, you got
So
it.
in order for Avatar to break even, it has to
Sure.
become the third or fourth highest grossing movie of all time. It needs to make basically 2 billion at least
Really? Jeez, that's a lot of
for it
billion.
not to lose money. Um, what's your opinion on that, Dan? Do you think that's folly, or do you think it's justified for
I think
Pandora?
as far as sure bets go, you're probably pretty safe with James Cameron in a sequel to the best movie of all time. I do think there's
Yeah,
going to be a ceiling here. Like you just can't. Every movie can't be the most successful movie. Every TV show can't be the most successful show, and some of them need to be. Like we're seeing that with the Rings of Power. Like that's a show that needs
yeah,
to be really, 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 really successful to be worth making it. And I think what we're seeing is that some of those aren't really hitting the marks. And it's one thing if a sitcom doesn't hit the mark, you can just kind of take the set down in 3 minutes and be done with it. And I
yeah,
do think we'll see fewer big swings in the future as shows like The Rings of Power, does fine but not good enough. As shows like his materials do decently but not well enough because we are spending a lot of money on this. I think Avatar will do
yeah,
fine. I would be surprised if it hit that, but I think maybe they'll be a little tight with the purse strings going forward.
yeah. I think
By
that's
the
fair.
way, Nicole asked any updates on Snow. No, and we will let you know
No.
when we have them, believe me. Although we were doing this thing where we were making up taglines for the show, and I'll just debut a couple right now. Um, you thought his story was over? Snow way, like that kind of thing. That'd be great. Or like attention White Walkers. There's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Sundays at 8. Jon Snow is back. That kind of thing. Oh, it'd be so good. Just like imagine those and give me yours in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Do I have any others? Probably. Oh, Snowbody knows the trouble he's seen. Jon Snow at
Ooh,
8 on Sundays. All right.
nice.
Anyway, the
That was a good one.
final with a thank you, I appreciate it. Oh, we thought of those like there's like a whole night we were just like talking back and forth and just, we found them way too funny. Um anyway, the final one is, and again, kind of for you, coming up on December 25th, Merry Christmas, is The Witcher Blood
Merry
Origin.
Christmas.
Daniel, you psyched for this? Oh, well, I mean, I can speak to this one. Maybe I can speak to it better because I haven't watched it. Because you watched the show, you got the screeners.
I,
Um,
I have I have seen Blood Origin. So yeah, are you excited, Dan?
no, not really. I mean, The Witcher, I haven't really. There's so much fantasy now that I don't really have to pick and choose. Like if I didn't love The
Yeah.
Witcher that much, I can just not watch it and stick to House of the Dragon and Historic Materials and some other stuff and Kindred. Why should I have to go dumpster diving for fantasy views? Maybe in the past I would have when there wasn't much on, but nowadays when there's so much to choose from, I don't expect the Witcher Blood Origin prequel show to be that great. Although I do love Michelle Yeoh, don't get me wrong there. Um,
Yeah.
the buzz about them having to retool things behind the scenes gives me pause. The kind of rush to capitalize on what was like a decent but not outsized hit and do this so quickly gives me pause. So no, I can't say I'm particularly excited, but it's only 4 episodes. But perhaps I'll check it out with some strong eggnog come Christmas Day.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to check it out. I can't give thoughts on The Witcher Blood
No,
Origin
you
quite yet.
cannot.
We will talk about it when I can talk about it. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what the reaction is because I think all the things you just said are how I have felt about it this whole time. Maybe with also a simmering undertone of anger because I really enjoyed the Witcher games and books.
Same.
But yeah, I'm very curious to see what the reaction will be to this. And it is
If
only four
any.
episodes.
It's
If
it's
any, I think
possible
there
this
will
will
be.
just like kind of flollop out of existence and kind of peak and then go down very fast. That's possible. Or not. I
Yeah,
mean,
well, I
The
think that's
Witcher was
kind of
pretty
almost
popular.
the nature of it a little bit because it is a limited series miniseries.
Limited.
So it's not the
Noise.
format doesn't lend itself to in like an enduring conversation necessarily, I think. So yeah, I'm very curious. I'm counting down the days till Christmas with
Till
The Witcher Blood
Christmas.
Origin.
You're counting down the days till The Witcher Blood Origin. Not because that's
Yep.
Christmas, but because that's what you want to see the show on. All right. Moving on, Daniel, and moving on, everyone out there watching. What else, if anything, you've been watching lately? You see any good movies or TV shows, Daniel? Did you? Kristen, Nicole, Julie, seen anything fun?
Well, there was that Andor show. That was pretty damn awesome.
God, it was
I
good.
finished.
God, it was good.
It was great. I loved the post credits twist. I had guessed it
Oh,
when the
whatever.
prison stuff was going on, but I loved that they went there in terms of Andor was helping build the Death Star. It's going to add a lot more layers of meaning to Rogue One because you know, uh, let's be real. A lot of us are going to
Yeah,
rewatch
no.
Rogue One after Andor is done.
Ah, not me.
But yeah, it was so good. Not you. Do you really aren't? You don't after you watch
Probably
two
not.
whole seasons of Cassian Andor being a roguish scoundrel who just wants freedom. You're not going to rewatch Rogue One,
I
really?
mean, this first season was good enough that I expect them to not disrespect me and to have a second season that actually concludes. I think that would be the best move. I mean, the Death Star thing is cute at the end when they reveal the Death Star, but I thought that was one of
Mhm.
my like that was a weakness to me. That was like
Okay.
you did such a good job of not doing the wink wink, here's a cameo from Star Wars, here's a reference that you'll know thing throughout the entire show, and
Sure.
really center it with these new characters who I really came to like. Cyril Karn, I can fix him.
Yeah.
Cassian Andor, I ended up really
Fix him.
following, yes. Daedra, the Empire kind of Nazi commander who's has
Great.
ambitions, she was really compelling as a villain. Um, the Marva speech in the finale where she's kind of given her own eulogy and like has this call to action, very
Yeah.
stirring, very rousing, and it was all for
Great.
this show. And then honestly, like the final bit, like they were built the Death Star, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I was like, I could have done without that. But the show itself really respects itself, its narrative, and its audience. And honestly, if it does its job right, I doubt I'll need to watch Rogue One.
Ooh, well played. Okay, I think that's fair. It's interesting because I do hear you with the Death Star in terms of like this is
It
one of
was
the
fine.
few
It
really.
was fine.
Yeah, I
I didn't
think
hate it.
logically it makes sense because if there's
Oh, sure.
anything that the Empire is going to have a secret prison camp to build, it's of course that would be the thing. Um, but yeah, I do think you're right that one of Andor's strengths was not leaning on those references
Mhm.
and just being good on its own merits. Even though it did have some references like The
Yeah,
guy
that's
he
true. That's
escaped
fun.
prison with is from Rogue One.
Oh, cute.
So yeah, so they snuck
Yeah,
some
perfectly
in, but
fine.
they seem like they came about much more organically than the usual Star Wars thing.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
It wasn't
Andor. If you
offensive
haven't
at
seen
all, the
Andor
Death
out
Star
there,
thing. It was fine. Hmm?
yeah, Andor's great.
Like
So
after
yeah,
they went
watch
the entire time without it, I'm like, oh, absolutely. Take this little wink. Absolutely. You earned it. Go
yeah,
ahead. It's fine. But
victory lap, victory lap for Andor. Um, yeah, so that was really good. I also watched the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special
oh, is that
over
cute? Is that cat?
the holiday. It was cute, is exactly the word I would use to describe it. It's short, it's fluffy, it's like 45 minutes. And it is, yeah, it's basically a, speaking of Star Wars, James Gunn, who wrote and directed the holiday special, was
Hmm.
inspired by the Star Wars Christmas special that came out
Sure.
way back in the day. It is kind of like famous slash
Thing
infamous for
lives
being
in
kind of
infamy.
all
Yeah.
over the place. Yeah. So he wanted to do the Star Wars special right, but with the Guardians. So it centers around a basically Mantis and Drax want to throw Mantis wants to throw a good Christmas for Peter Quill because she
Hmm.
thinks his former foster father Yandu ruined Christmas for him and he misses it from Earth. So they decide they're going to give him the thing he loves the most, which is Kevin Bacon. And then they go on a
Sure.
heist to try to steal Kevin Bacon.
Good sport, Kevin
It's
Bacon. Yeah.
Yep. Well, yeah, moderate sport. Kevin, he is a good sport. It definitely in the movie. Um, it's good. It's not going to change your life any, but if you like Marvel stuff and you want a light, fluffy holiday thing, it's kind of just perfect at being that.
That's
So
nice.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Christian saw it. Christian, did you like it, or are you just asking if anybody saw it? Has anybody watched Willow or Wednesday? Because I haven't, and it's just I'm trying to get around to a lot of stuff. You neither. Okay. If anybody else watched, I'd be curious to hear what you guys think because they are making some waves. A couple people mentioned the White Lotus,
Yeah.
which I've been watching and loving. I know Julie said she hasn't been enjoying it quite as much this season. I don't know, Julie. I think they're getting crazy. That show is like walking right up to the edge of complete trash. Like this last episode especially, just the drama is starting to get fairly soap operatic, but it's still keeping
Yeah.
it in like bounds that are close enough that I'm closer to like, oh my God, you see that, rather than like, oh, come on. Oh, I'm really liking it. Jennifer Coolidge is hilarious. We keep trying to do our Jennifer Coolidge voice. Is that the Queen of Sicily? Oh, that show's so good.
Wasn't bad.
And they thank you. And I want a hot dog real bad. They had a full-on incest twist this last one, which kind of brings it more into the Game of Thrones. What is with House of the Dragon, the White Lotus? Both have uncle and nephew niece getting really close. Um,
That's
I'm just enjoying
HBO's
it,
log line for
pushing that
2022. I
boundary. I
guess.
am
Yep.
enjoying the uh what should I call it? Like the it's classy trash what the White Lotus is. And it's
Yeah.
also like kind of good incisive character armor too. Like they're examining, kind of toxic masculinity, all that kind of crap. In a way that's convincing while still being fun about like these messy rich folk. Like this, and there's like this whole subgenre of just like rich folk behaving badly. Like this, Succession,
Yes.
Billions, a bunch of them. And I mean, Frank, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, actually put that right in there. It's like
Basic.
period rich people
Yeah.
behaving badly.
The Gilded
Um,
Age.
the Gilded, oh god, I actually didn't mind the Gilded Age. I don't know, that's a weird one. It
Yeah.
is, I guess it's something that we like to watch. And I
I
guess it does
guess.
provide for a lot of eye candy and stuff. Lots of beautiful palazzos and garish costumes. Christian, I would have seen the Weird Al Yankovic movie if I could. If it was in theaters, I would have. I don't. I keep forgetting how to access it on like Roku dot streaming or whatever it's on. But I'd like to see
Yep.
it. Maybe.
Yeah. It's
Finally.
an instance of too many streaming platforms to keep track of for me. I would like to watch Weird Al. The yep. You said that last time, Christian.
I know.
We
I know.
know it's free. It's still too many apps. um,
Oh, we get it.
Yeah, so
There's good
I'd like to
movies
watch
out
it
now
at some
too.
point. Are there? I hear the Fablemans is out, and has underperformed as well. Maybe partially due to the marketing,
Money
also.
wise, who cares? I want to see Fablemans really, really badly. I saw the Banshees of Inisherin this last week with Colin Farrell. That was great. It was really, really
Okay,
good. Oh, Glass
cool.
Onion was in theaters, and I didn't know it was only for 1 week before Netflix takes it away and just puts it on Netflix the next month. And I was like, I want to see this again. I'm like, no, I don't get to see it now. I was so gonna see that, but I didn't know it's a
Yeah,
limited release because it's right near me. And I was like, oh, come on,
yeah,
man. I could have seen Knives Out too. So I'll have to wait for that one. Yeah,
yeah.
there
Send
the
Netflix an
menu looks
email, lodge a
interesting.
complaint.
Hmm?
I said lodge a complaint with Netflix. Let them
I
know.
will.
I haven't
December,
seen your
I'm gonna be
movie.
going to the theater a lot. I have not having like a really strong movie theater role in a while. I think it's time families can't wait to see.
Yeah.
Ooh, anything else you're watching? Anyone out there before we get into our final part of the episode?
Um, I see Julie and Nicole talked about the peripheral, and they are
True that.
torn on it, which I think
Ooh,
is kind of fair. Julie says she's liking it. Nicole says it's gotten kind of blah. Um, and I haven't seen the last episode actually, because Amazon didn't give us an advance heads up, and it was a holiday. Um, but I still am really liking it. I do think I'm a little nervous that it's flagging a little bit in its a late season. So it's got one. The finale is this week. Um, so I haven't seen episode 7. It looked like stuff was either going to get very real or go totally off the rails in episode 7. I'm excited to see which of those it is. Julie and Nicole, it sounds like you had differing opinions. So I will report back on the peripheral next week for sure.
Daniel will tell you the correct opinion as soon as he writes the episode, as soon as he writes the review and sees it.
Yes. And the only other one that we should mention that I don't think either of us has watched yet, but I probably will at some points, is
Mm.
the Willow Show premiered on Disney Plus today.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of am ambivalent about it. I was not super attached to like the Willow movie, so I've seen it like once and I thought it was a
Sure.
decent movie, but I didn't grow up in love with it like I think a lot of the people who are going to show up for Willow did.
Mm.
I feel like they've kind of got a very specific niche they need to please there with that, and I hope it's good.
Yeah,
Are you going to watch
that's
it?
neat. Probably. You know what? Maybe it might be tonight. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure how I'm gonna watch that
Okay.
tonight or 1899. It's gonna be one of those. But and you know,
Yeah, that's fair.
I can tweet out which one later. So we'll find out. Anyway, Daniel, should we do the WiC News Lightning Round?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna
20
blow my
seconds on
nose.
the
It's gonna
clock.
be
We
silent.
give. Sorry.
I said I had to
Okay.
blow my
Oh,
nose,
gotcha.
so I was gonna mute. I muted
We
so no one
give
could hear
our
it.
20-second reactions to news stories we couldn't talk about during the body of the show, and whether we go over, whether we get a point taken off. If we go under, we get half point taken off, and if we go exactly correct, we don't have any points
Plus
taken
5.
off. We start with 10 points. I'm making up the rules as I speak right now. Anyway, let's go. Oh, okay. You asked me first, I believe, if you would be so kind.
Okay, I would love to because I want to know your take on this. So,
Oh,
Legendary Entertainment, they left Warner Brothers. This is Legendary. They made the
yeah.
Dune movie, make tons of stuff. They apparently signed up with Sony. Should we be concerned, happy, or otherwise indifferent?
I mean, otherwise indifferent because as bad as it sounds, like, Warner Brothers, which has been struggling lately ever since the new CEO took over, is losing this big partner. They've lost them before, and like things do happen
Yeah.
in Hollywood. Studios go from one place to another place. It happens all the time. Um, it would suck though if like they didn't keep making the Dune movies after Dune 2. So we'll see
Yeah.
how that shakes out in the long term. Okay, Daniel, you're a Witcher expert. What do you think of the report that Netflix is apparently making another Witcher spinoff about a group of bandits called the Rats?
I feel like I embody that Ben Affleck meme where he looks exhausted with a cigarette. That's how I feel about that announcement. Netflix has just had a pattern of super jumping the gun with putting spin-offs into production. Um, the rats are not an especially well-liked part of the books, so I can understand why their pattern is now doing one between seasons to fill
Sure.
out backstory for the next season. It makes sense, but I hate it. And I went over because I needed to say that. All right.
You meant it.
I did. So here's one for you. Speaking of Dune, even though Legendary
Ooh.
has left, this is still happening. So
Yeah.
Dune, the Sisterhood, started filming, but
Right.
its co-showrunner, Diane Ademujan, stepped down
Huh.
like the week that filming started. So
Right.
Allison Shanker will be the sole showrunner. Again, excited, concerned, or indifferent?
I mean, I wasn't sure how interested I was in the Dune spin-off show to begin with. I'd have to see more to know if I actually want to watch this thing. You always wonder just why someone did, just what you want to know. Like you have a job running a show and you step down the week it begins filming. What happened? I just want to know the gossip and the drama and the tea. Like
Same.
was it, what kind of problem was it? And I just don't know.
Yeah, something was afoot.
Okay, Daniel and everybody else out there. Carice Van Houten, who played Melisandre in the Game of Thrones program, said she would return as Melisandre, perhaps on the Jon Snow show, if the storyline was good. Your thoughts?
I think that's kind of become the general answer that these
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones cast members are giving. Gwendolyn Christie said like the exact same thing a week ago, except she said if the writing's good, I think Kit Harington's writing it himself. Ha ha ha. Poking fun at him. So I think that's reasonable. I'm so glad they feel that way because I wouldn't want them to come back if it was bad either. So good for you, Carice Van Houten.
I'm returning. It's
Um,
no joke.
oh God. Yep. When they make that show, if and when, there will be jokes aplenty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is an exciting one. Speaking of Game of Thrones people, these actors are not in Game of Thrones anymore, but they once were. So HBO released character posters for its new show, The Last of Us, which is coming out starting in January. That's Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey who play the leads. How
As
do you like
Joel
them?
and
How do you feel,
Ellie.
Dan?
I'm definitely gonna watch it. Because I actually put a lot
Yeah.
of money into this. It's a big story. They're taking a big swing. The cast is great. They spend a ton on it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous that they're putting it out this early in the year. Honestly, I don't know why that concerns me so much. But now they're getting the marketing rolled out. They have confidence in it. I love Craig Mazin, who did Chernobyl. I hope it's great, and I think it might
Yeah.
be. So I'm looking forward to this genuinely. We'll be covering it here on Take the Block.
That's their
Daniel,
Peacemaker slot. I just realized. That's the exact slot that
Peacemaker slot.
Peacemaker was in last year
But
for
that wasn't on
HBO Max.
HBO. Like, because The Last of Us is on
It was.
HBO. I think it
Oh,
aired on HBO. It wasn't HBO Max.
no. I think it was HBO Max. Those posters say HBO Max for The Last of Us, but that's fair. It will be on
I
HBO.
I can never tell what's on HBO and what's on HBO Max by itself now. I guess we'll figure it out later.
It's confusing.
Um, it's confusing. All right. Daniel, the Game of Thrones live concert experience will return for one night only in LA
Yeah.
next year with composer Ramin Djawadi overseeing the orchestra.
Yeah, I think that's exciting. I've never been so tempted to take a one night flight to LA before.
Right? How
I
far?
think it's the 17th, 2023. Tickets go on sale next week or this Friday, I think, December 2nd. Yeah, it has scenes projected behind the orchestra. They have pyrotechnics, fireworks apparently at previous ones of this. So if you missed out on it, it will be back for one night.
I saw it and it was really cool.
Ooh, nice.
That
Now I
kind.
just want to hear about that. Oh, cool.
You'd love it. I'm sure
All
you'd love
right.
it.
Uh, I am sure you are right. All right, we have but two more, and one of them. Okay, so speaking of new movies, destined to become your next favorite, that Super Mario Brothers movie is coming out on April 7th. It just not dropped a new trailer, and the thing I want to know is, does Chris Pratt still sound like Linda Belcher in this trailer? And was it good?
The trailer's fun. I mean, just as someone who grew up with Mario, it did honestly stoke some nostalgia feelings in me. I don't think I'm gonna see it, but I've been more
Okay.
tempted to see this than like any other kid DreamWorks movie. Maybe I'll like drag my nephew or niece and just make them go, and I'll take them as a chaperone or something.
Nice. Can,
It looks
can I press
silly.
gang into seeing this movie?
hmm I, I'm kind of tempted. We'll see what happens. And finally, Daniel. Okay, Wednesday, the new Addams Family show from Netflix was watched for 341 million hours in its first week on offer, beating out Stranger Things season 4, which was watched for like 335 million for over a 1 week period in the past. Highest English language show in 1 week ever.
Um, I'm a little tired of hearing every time Netflix releases a new thing that it's the highest thing ever on Netflix. But I'm happy for Wednesday because apparently a lot of people are liking it a lot. It's the Addams Family spinoff about Wednesday Addams going to spooky Hogwarts. Um, and yeah, I think that's cool. I'm a little surprised to beat Stranger Things, but maybe I shouldn't be because it's season 1, so it's more accessible to newcomers.
Sure, maybe. I was surprised too. Anyway, that was a quick lightning round, and I'm impressed and proud of us that we had so much to say and so many great important things to say. And I thank all of you for watching. We're at the end of the show, but we're going to be back next Wednesday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time on the Winners Coming Facebook page and the Winners Coming YouTube page. In the meantime, you're free to, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Comment already, you love people. And feel free to listen to us in podcast form, wherever podcasts are available, at iTunes, Google Play, or elsewhere. This has been Take the Black, the #1 show on Netflix.